Hey everybody, Chris Eggleston here with GravityRanger.com, and in today's video tutorial we're going to be addressing a specific user request. In fact, this request I received a couple times over the last week, and it was specifically how to give people the option to opt in to your newsletter or to opt in to subscribe to your email marketing campaigns as opposed to just assigning them or automatically enrolling them like you can do with Gravity Forms when it's integrated with a third-party service like Mailchimp or Constant Contact or ConvertKit, any of those, right? So now with a lot of the privacy concerns and the policies across the different countries, sometimes it's required that you give the person the option to opt in. So we want to make sure that we're being compliant. And so in one of these cases, that was what this individual is trying to do. And so in this tutorial, that's what I'm going to show you is how you can give the person the option to opt in to be subscribed to your newsletter or to your mailing system as opposed to just automatically subscribing everybody. And I will be demonstrating this using Mailchimp in all the cases, all the requests that I received. They were all the same. They were all requesting for how to do it with Mailchimp specifically, but do note that this would apply for any of the email marketing services that Gravity Forms can integrate with, whether it's Constant Contact, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, so pretty much any of them. So the first step we got to take is actually creating our form, and I'm going to do this. Instead of it just being a newsletter subscription form, what I'm going to do is assume that this is a contact form or just some general form that you might have on your site where you want to give that person the option to opt in. Okay, so I'm going to just call this contact opt-in. And I'm going to keep this very simple just for demonstration purposes, right? You can have as many fields as you want. Your form could be for anything that you want, and this would work across the board. I'm just going to keep this very simple, a very basic contact form, which is going to request somebody's name, email, and then whatever their message is that they want to send, okay? So that's the basic of our form. And if you have a pre-existing form that you want to add this opt-in option to, this is exactly what you would do. The next thing we need is to use a choice-based field. So we could use a checkbox. We could use a radio button, although I wouldn't recommend using a radio button field. Let's see something real quick. Sorry, I'm going to check what version of Gravity Forms I have. Okay, I'm using version 2.8. So in Gravity Forms 2.9, which if you watched our video review of 2.9, you'll see that there are 2 additional fields being added, which are for choice-based field types. So if you're curious about those, when you're done here, go ahead and go watch that review of 2.9, which is currently in beta. So anyway, we can use a choice-based field for this. Again, I don't recommend radio buttons because once you make that selection, you can't unselect it. So if you accidentally selected opt-in, but you don't want to be opt-in, you can't do that without refreshing the page and starting all over on the form. So you could use a checkbox field. You could also use the consent field. And that's the one I'm going to put preference on because if I can find it, here it is. Because it has a single checkbox field. I don't have to remove any options, and this is essentially what it is for consent. Okay, so I'm just going to put yes, add me to your mailing list. Okay, and then give it a title, join my newsletter. Okay, so now, and again, the nice thing about the consent field is here in the settings, you cannot default select this like you could with a checkbox field. Just to show you what I mean here real quick. So in a checkbox field, if I wanted, and this is important because, again, following some policies, GDPR, for example, in some countries, the policy is that the user has to opt in, not that you can't be having them opt out. So in the US, from what I understand, again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the laws 100%, but from what I understand, in the US, I could have a checkbox field on my form, and I could say that I want this to be selected by default. Okay, and this would be the same. Well, oh my goodness. Okay, so I could have this like this in my form. Okay, and you'll see that the checkbox is automatically checked because I made that default selection here. Okay, so with that, in some countries this would be okay. Like I believe in the US it would be okay to require them to opt out, but in other countries you can't have that option automatically selected. They would have to actually opt in by checking the box. So you can't. Another reason why the consent field is ideal for this type of consent field is because you can't accidentally or deliberately automatically add or make that the default selection. Okay, so we'll delete this one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and save my form, and then we'll just take a quick preview of it. Okay, so here's my form, my opt-in. Okay, so very simple, ready to go. So the next thing I have to do is I need to make sure I'm integrated with, again, we're using Mailchimp. Okay, so I'll go to settings and then Mailchimp, and I'm already got Mailchimp all set up. If you need instruction on that, I will have a link in the written tutorial on this, also in the description of wherever you're watching this video. You'll find a link to the docs from Gravity Forms that shows you how to set up Mailchimp if you need that. But I already have it set up. So all I'm going to do is add a feed. Okay, I'm just going to leave the default name for demonstration purposes. You can make that whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to select the IC list. And then it's got my Mailchimp fields here, and then I got to map these up with my form fields. Okay, and then what do I want? Marketing permissions. So email. Okay, so I'm gonna enable marketing permissions for email if the join my newsletter is checked. Okay, so I'm gonna take out double opt-in. Again, in some places you may have to use double opt-in, and so if you do, you can enable that option. And then, so that would basically be Mailchimp or whatever platform you're using would be sending them an email that says, hey, thanks for subscribing. Click here to confirm that you want to subscribe. And then once they click that, then they will actually be subscribed. And until then, they will be added to the list as pending. So you won't see them in the list until they double opt in, okay? Okay, so then the other thing I'm going to do is I only want this feed to process if they check the box. Okay, so process this feed if join my newsletter is checked. So this is the only time I want this person. I don't even have to really do this, but okay, you don't really have to do that. But it's just helpful if they're already subscribed. Okay, so anyway, so I only want this Mailchimp feed to process if they check the box that they want to join my newsletter. Okay, so if they don't check that box, then Gravity Forms will ignore this feed and they will not be added to Mailchimp. They will still generate an entry in your Forms entries list, but again, they will not process in Mailchimp. Okay, so if we look at this and go away. If we look at this and run a test real quick. So first one is checked, so we'll go ahead and submit. Okay, so that's good. If we look at the entries, we're only going to have a note. We'll only see a note if there was an error with a service like Mailchimp. Okay, so if it was successful, then we would not see a note here. So that's important. So don't think it's not working because you don't see a note. Mailchimp and the other, as far as I'm aware, all of the other email marketing platforms are only going to have notes if it's unsuccessful like this one. So invalid resource. Okay, so there was some kind of issue. I suspect it might be because of the email address I used. So let's try it again. Check our entries. And that one worked. You'll see there's no error message here. So that one was successful. Okay. Now let's do one more test. And this one, let's not check the box. And we'll check our entries. So I have my successful entry, but you'll notice, again, there's no note here. So we don't know that they weren't subscribed. We just know that they didn't consent, as you don't see that option here. So they did not consent. So they should not have been added. Okay. And we could even look at the logs if you wanted to see what that might look like. So we should see something like conditional logic not met. Right here. Feed conditional not met, not processing feed. Okay. So we know that it's working. If they check the box and they have a valid entry, it's not marked as spam, then it will be added. And this was the last test that I did, and it shows that it was successfully subscribed successfully. Okay. Now, and then again, the second test, when I did not check the box, the feed did not, the conditional logic were met, so the feed was not processed. Okay. So now we know it's working, and that's essentially all you have to do. Okay, let's look at that form one more time. So whatever form you have, even if it's, contact form, application form, it doesn't matter. It could be solely designed for newsletter opt-in. All you have to do is add a consent field to the form. Okay, with this option for them to opt in, and then in your Mailchimp feed, you have to enable conditional logic, so that the feed is only processed if they check the box. Okay, so that's how you do it. Do an opt-in option for your newsletter for any form built with Gravity Forms. All right, if you have any questions or need any other insights, feel free to leave a comment wherever you're watching this video, and we'll be happy to provide any additional help that we can. All right, so until the next one, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next video. Have fun, be safe, and go build something cool.